Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, at the Republican National Convention, the RNC, they featured a speaker named Amber Rose. She has dated Kanye West, and she's a very prominent feminist, okay? And she's pro Rainbow Mafia and pro abortion, dresses lewd, has a face tattoo, was a stripper, and she promotes stripping culture and porn. And she has a sort of festival she does called Slut Walk. Okay, on her Instagram page that she has and that her fans run, has pictures of the women who participate in the event that she started, and they're all very pornographic. And so it's interesting that the word conservative comes up, and it's often a cliche of what are conservatives conserving. And if the GOP and the Republican Party will post Bible quotes, but then they'll have someone like Amber Rose speak. And my question is, does the MAGA party come before the Bible? Does a Christian put the MAGA agenda above the Bible? You should think about that. Because if you say, well, we have to promote a whore of Babylon in order to get votes, to win by any means, doesn't that show that you're bending the rules and slowly eroding your own religion just for the sake of getting your political candidate in office? And aren't the sexual revolutionary feminists part of the reason why divorce is up, why porn culture took over, why brothel culture took over, why so many women are doing OnlyFans? So if that's the case, and you don't want your daughters to be that, why would you promote Amber Rose? Now some people argue because she has so many Instagram followers, they might be exposed to it. But again, just like how Turning Point USA will have questionable activities, you have to begin to notice that the word conservative in America doesn't mean Christian. And it's more and more evidence that the liberal atheists rule. Because if you have the conservative parties promoting female rappers, which is not a Christian value, it's not a religious value, and they had some weird Sikh lady up there praying to the gender neutral deity or something that they have, they're way more of a minority than occultists and Muslims. And I mean, it's very rare to even see someone who's a Sikh. So why is that woman having a feature of being, up there? And so the equity, inclusion, and diversity model that the left pushes was in the Republican Party. And you can see how there's this split of traditional American values versus more modern Republican values, and that being a Republican doesn't mean you're a conservative, and being a conservative doesn't mean you're Christian. We're learning this more and more. And it's fascinating seeing Matt Walsh and Nick Fuentes agree that the behavior, and Vincent James, I believe is how you say his name, Red Elephant, and others, they're just pointing out how the Republican Party is trying to appeal to too broad of a net. You can't have everyone under your umbrella. It's just not the case. You just can't do that. When you cast such a wide net, you're gonna have fishes that eat each other within the net. You can't do that. And that's why I left the left-wing voting bloc, is because I'm not gonna support the Rainbow Mafia and the things that they support with feminism. I can't do it. Even if they were to give me universal health care, I can't, because to vote with them is to vote that in. You can't get one without the other. So I find it also deeply disturbing is, why does America hate promoting good women? If you recall, I've said many times that female Muslim role models are so important that are proper, not like liberal hijabis. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like female scholars. It's important for them to have a presence because there's no one to look up to for women. Looking up to men isn't the same. A man can't teach you how to really be a full woman. You have to have that female identity. And if the Republican Party of the United States of America is promoting women like her, then we're gonna have a huge problem. Some of the most famous women in America are musicians who are so degenerate and promote anti-Islamic and anti-Christian values that we can't be surprised when people are using drugs at a higher rate. They are getting, 200 men already by the time they're 25. It's abominable, the rate of single motherhood and the rate of women getting pregnant outside of marriage. It's very high, and liberals promote things that destroy society. Because if you really believe that your religion is the truth, and then you notice that the secular liberal atheists have promoted agendas that destroy what your religion teaches, and then the fruits of their labor are rotten and putrid and parasitic, you have to then realize that making your political party act more like the left wing isn't going to help you spiritually. And again, Amber Rose is somebody who, I almost said Leela Rose, and I think Leela Rose is actually a good Christian lady, so I'm going to make sure I don't get the roses confused. But Amber Rose isn't somebody who should be telling Christians how to be anything. And what's really gross is when you see liberal Christian women say, like, oh, I'm glad Jesus was not judgmental and he hung out with sinners. No. Jesus wasn't smoking blunts with sinners and letting them proudly boast about their degeneracy and call to degeneracy. He was telling them, rise and sin no more. He was counseling them, trying to show them a better and superior path. Okay. And what happens is conservatives now in America, especially with the Lily, the chick who said the N-word, who I talked about before, I did a video called The Rise of Lily. She has so many different usernames. It's almost like she keeps changing it. It's really weird. She's had like 4 different usernames. So, it's the one with the hand with the puppet strings. If you just look at who they're pushing up to lead women, you can't complain that women are not being good wives, they're not being good mothers, and that the households are becoming broken, and that the government is stepping in to raise your kids. Because if you're going to self-govern, the women have to play a role in the home, and they need to be moral and virtuous. And someone like Amber Rose, who promotes debauchery, hedonism, lewdness, drug use, fornication, abortions, and she praises the Satanic Temple, why can't they have a very nice religious scholar on there? Why not women with dignity? Why should the religious people erase their values in order to get votes? This is why democracy, I don't think, really works. Because you end up eroding your religion to get votes, to appeal to the masses, because the rule of the mob means you have to appeal to the general. And then you change your morality as the wind blows, as votes dictate. I don't think this is a good strategy for America, because how are you going to correct the rot if you have to use a whore of Babylon, a servant of Sodom and Gomorrah, in order to do it? Music is a very vile force, and it's not surprising that musicians hold so much sway, and through their music they act terribly. She shaves her head as a sign of her allegiance to the feminist creed, the very rad femmes. And Kanye West is somebody who grifted off of Christians and went really into a mental down spiral, who's mentally ill and quite deranged. And so his Bella Sensori, or whatever her name is, his new woman, is constantly exposing her genitals and her chest, and she's even facing some jail time for that. It's really grotesque, okay? And then with Kanye being with Kim Kardashian, who's definitely a horrible role model for women. So you just see how the rot of Hollywood is what's led so many women to be utterly confused on what they should do in life. And in order to course correct, you're supposed to go back to traditional conservative values, and to be conservative and traditional used to stem in religion. So therefore, it stands to reason that you have to put up the women who don't support the things that go against your faith. It's interesting how you'll see Christians have to struggle with the idea of, do you support Trump or do you support your religion first? As a Muslim, it's easy for me, because I say religion first, candidate last. And Trump won't be getting my vote, because I'm not going to vote. I don't believe that if a woman isn't paying taxes and contributing to the GDP in an economic sense, that she should vote. And if you're not well informed on the policies, you shouldn't vote. And that landowners, people who have a stake in the game, or a child who is in the armed forces, something like that, have more of a right. But none of them are going to do anything for us Muslims, so, both of them are Zionists and want more wars in the Middle East, and they want to both have a war with Iran. So it doesn't make any sense to me to go and support candidates like that. Okay? I just find it really sad. I've been saying this for years now, that positive female Muslim role models are very essential, because the amount of very wicked, vile women confusing the masses is causing so many to go astray. And you may think you can hide your daughters from that, but they also need to have someone to turn to. You gotta have someone to turn to who's a woman, and you can say, oh, your sisters in your community. That's a very rare thing for so many people. Okay? And you don't know if someone is moral in your community just because they happen to wear a hijab. But when you have video evidence of people who are trying, that's quite a different case, because the proof is in the pudding. And you may not be able to see every action someone does, and you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. But people who are openly trying have more merit, I'd argue. And so I'm very sad for America, because it seems like there is another chick, the Hawktaw girl. There was a woman who she got paid $30,000 to do an appearance for some show because she made a joke about spitting on a man's phallus during oral intimacy. That's insane, and she went so viral just for that joke because she was buzzing coming out of a bar talking about that. It's wild how you can become super famous off of degeneracy, and it makes me sad for the women who are doing the right thing, putting in the work, obeying a law, or even really good Christian ladies. They don't get promoted. They don't. And it's, people see being righteous as being boring, which means that the religious communities have to do more work. And when it comes to Islam, the Muslim sisters have to start making efforts and explaining how Islam is the truth, and explaining how Islam has changed their life. And yes, men are the only ones supposed to do like physical dawah in the streets, but in the online realm, there can be sisters who can do dawah in niqab or burqa, or just being journalists, like writing stuff, or who knows. They can find their own way to contribute, writing books, magazines, however they want to contribute. But you have, I can name so many prominent male scholars who are to be trusted, who practice what they preach, and who are great people. But I can't say the same for women. I don't know one woman who's like that. Now, I do like Niqabi Diaries work she does, but other than that, I don't really know any women who are well known in America. And sadly, the worst kind of hijabi sisters who wear a lot of makeup, who are aggressive, who are really loud, who are feminists, they get the spotlight. But you don't see a classical, well-tempered woman who's been married a long time and has many kids and who dedicated her life to Islam getting any spotlight. And I find this to be very troubling. There's a vacuum there. And women can look to men, get advice from men, but they also need that feminine energy coming in to guide them with wisdom and virtue. And I just find it quite sad. And so when you see someone like Amber Rose at a conservative convention where the Bible is constantly quoted, you can see the watering down. It's really quite detestable. Really, truly is. You don't need to appeal to everyone. You need to convince people to your ideas. You don't need to bow to theirs. So, please, if you have like a local woman in your community who's like a teacher, or she's, I don't know, she's something where you know she's good, pray for that person. We need more positive female role models who aren't doing OnlyFans, who aren't doing porn, who aren't vapid, who aren't vain, who aren't materialistic. It's just quite sad. Why is it that the men have so many role models now, but the only role models for women are lewd, loudmouth, boss babes, but there's no classy, like, where's the Princess Diana of this generation? Now, yes, she kind of changed as she got a little bit older, but I'm talking about the body language, the decorum. Why can't we have that anymore? Why do we have to have the most bombastic women who imitate men? Why is that? It just doesn't make sense to me. And then the only feminine women are the whores. I don't get it. I really don't. And so, I don't see this as a good sign for America. People making excuses that a stripper with a face tattoo and a shaved head who brags about the most degenerate topics is necessary in order to get a certain candidate elected. And that there's no negative outcome of putting a spotlight on someone like that. Because if you're just going to sit here and say, well, we have to do it because we want votes. I remember a hadith where a polytheist offered to fight with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he told them, no, we don't need help from you. That was a very potent hadith, and you should look it up and think about it. The monotheists, us, went against the polytheists, and we didn't seek help from the polytheists. You have to be able to believe in your group and in the mission of that. Just think about it. But Matt Walsh and others who are complaining about Amber Rose being there are right. I don't agree with Matt Walsh on other things, obviously about the war in Palestine and his strange fear of Muslims, but I can agree that in the classical sense, when you said conservative in America, it meant Christian. But may Allah protect us and guide us, because the lack of positive female role models for little girls who are religious is jarring, scary, and terrifying. And when public schools are doing the most to erode religion, then we have to examine a new strategy. Okay? There needs to be a new party invented. There needs to be no more the Republican and Democrat. Libertarians are no better. The Green Party is no better, but we need to have more parties. And I'd argue that the Christians should make their own political party where it's only Christians who argue for a theocracy. And I argue that Muslims should have a political party where they only want They only argue for a theocracy. You can't team up with liberals. You just can't do it. They may be nice to you in terms of immigration and discrimination, but they promote values that go directly against your religion in the most apparent ways. And you have to ask yourself, the means to the end, is it worth it? What will you sacrifice and give away so that you can win? And why are you eroding your religion if you feel your religion is the truth? Why are you hiding it, dumbing it down, watering it down in order to grovel at the feet of the secular liberal atheists? And do your research on Amber Rose. I mean, be careful. It's too much haram, but maybe sisters can do it, you know? And then I don't know how you make it halal. But she's not somebody who should be promoted. And when you give someone a job to speak at a convention where it's broadcasted to millions of people, you are telling the little girls in the crowd her behavior is okay. This is a woman to look at. This woman gets to prophesize. She gets to preach to you. She knows better than you. She should be quiet. She should sit in the crowd, Amber Rose, and go on her private Instagram and say whatever she wants. But women like her are why so many women are single mothers. Why so many women have STDs. Why so many women have had multiple abortions. Why so many women are drug users. It's women like her. And for now, she hasn't denounced her past. She hasn't converted to a religion. She's a sex-positive feminist. She's into fornication. She thinks it's very fine for men, married men, any man, to pay women to take their clothes off. Last time I checked, that wasn't a biblical value. And so, the Republican Party, 1 minute, I posted in the past, the GOP was doing Bible quotes. And so the Republican Party has to decide, are you going to be a Christian organization or not? You can't play both sides. You have to be it and stick to it. And then you have to govern and live by those values. Not bring them up when it's convenient on Christmas or Easter and then toss it to the side when it's election season. You need a candidate who's going to bring in Christian values. Actual Christian values. Not someone who is going to water down your faith. You know, Trump held up a Bible not too long ago. That was a viral thing. And I'm not saying he gets to tell the Republican National Convention committees and who to hire for such gigs. But what I am saying is that Christians better wake up and see what the right wing is doing, and that there's new factions. Yes, there's different factions in the right wing, just like in the left, okay? I'm very well aware. But the way we change it is to support women who are doing good and who are sober, who volunteer, who live a righteous life, who work hard in their righteousness. Let the whore of Babylon, regardless of her fame, bend the knee to the religious women. The religious women don't need to look at her as some powerful icon who must be pandered to. The one who's groveling in sin, bathing in sin, endorsing sin, celebrating sin, has to remove that cloak of haughtiness and seek advice and knowledge from the better women. The better women don't need to grovel to the whore of Babylon who's boasting and braggadocious in her decadent and abhorrent behavior. That's a liberal thing to do. The liberals love their sin. They like to. They flaunt it. They glorify it. They revel in it. That's unbecoming of a religious group of people. So let me know what you think, and may Allah protect us, and may good Muslim sisters rise in the ranks and not push feminism in, not push hedonism in, and may they not commit bid'ahs and innovations. May they stay upon the path of Tawheed, and may they practice what they preach. And may they have the financial support that they need in order to keep doing that. Take care, fam, and if you'd like to join my blog and read more about what I write, you can go to www.subscribestar.com/MyHomeArchive. Hope to see you there.